Anitimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Dvapayano Viraha Tara Ajuhava Bhuteti Tan Maitaya Taravo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatusmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Abhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptashtakamari Tarangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Rende Namaste Charanara Vindam Tavevasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitha Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad, Asta Tarsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padmanitha Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad, Asta Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the Sambhu Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So, continuing with this 12th chapter of Chaitanya Bhagavat, we've been doing Chaitanya Bhagavat now since the beginning of December. December 5th is when we started. That's when we started chapter 11, Glories of Lord Nityananda, and then now chapter 12. We may finish that today. Okay, so we're on verse 376, and they had just had wonderful bathing pastimes, water sports, very intimate, confidential pastimes between Advaitacharya and Nityananda, where Advaitacharya appears to be criticizing Nityananda, but hidden within those words are actually very high level of praise and affection that an ordinary person reading may not detect, but by reading the commentaries of our acharyas, it's quite clear and direct. And then Mahaprabhu goes back to his house, and there is a description of the glories and good fortune of Mother Shachi. Then the Lord takes rest. The demigods, seeing that, would then leave. And then Chaturmukha, Panchamukha, Adidevagana, Niti Asi Chaitanyara Koraye Sevana. The demigods, headed by four-headed Brahma and the five-headed Shiva, would daily come to serve Lord Chaitanya. Chaturmukha, right? Four-faced. Panchamukha, five-faced. Those words are used to refer to Brahma and Lord Shiva. Whereas for us, it's two-faced, because we have no good qualities, we're hypocrites, two-faced, So anyway, they're very, most exalted, the guna avatars in this universe. So the demigods would come every day disguised, right? Dekitena paya iha teha agyavine sehi prabhu anugrahe bale karastane. Without the Lord's sanction, no one could see them. Only one who is favored by the Lord can speak to others about this. Ooh. So Vrindavan Das Thakur can speak about this. He knows what happened. He has been favored by the Lord. He's been favored directly by Lord Nityananda to reveal this, because most people couldn't see, but those who were especially favored by Mahaprabhu could see Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva coming. What? How exalted. Konadina Vasya Takaye Vishrambar Samukhe Aila Matra Kona Anuchar. One day, as Vishrambar was sitting there, some of his associates came before him. The Lord told them, "Wait there," while four-headed and five-headed personalities rolled on the ground in the courtyard. No one could estimate how many personalities were there. "Don't you recognize these persons?" That's in quotes. "Don't you recognize these persons?" And then all the devotees replied to the Lord with folded hands, "O Lord, the inhabitants of the three worlds serve you. What power do we have to see? Only you can give us the ability to see. These confidential pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are most wonderful. If one hears them, he achieves all perfection." And we have heard and told the stories before, but there were occasions when Srila Prabhupada spoke in the same way. There are two stories I recall mostly. One was when they had, actually three, but this is when they had rented a hall for a program for Srila Prabhupada early on in New York, right? And the devotees had so much enthusiasm, and so they rented a very nice auditorium, and they had a program. They advertised with flyers everywhere. Nobody came, just a handful of people, right? And they did the full program. Prabhupada chanted, he spoke, and all like that. And the devotees were very apologetic. Oh, nobody came. But Srila Prabhupada was very happy, because there's never any defeat when you do Harikatha and Kirtan. But then he said something extraordinary. He said, "Oh, you didn't see Narad Muni was there?" And so many other demigods as well had come to see, because they were also astonished that Srila Prabhupada had come to the West under the empowerment of the exalted ray of Vishnu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Nayana Manjari, the birthed son of Kamala Manjari, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? Gaurashakti Sarupaya, their dear associate and representative, had come to the West to do what had never been even imagined before, to take Mahaprabhu's mission. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was preaching, it's been described that many of his associates, his disciples and all, they couldn't imagine that this movement could go to the West. It just seemed impossible. The West would be so degraded. They had made some attempt, and not much had been done. You know, they'd met people, they'd spoken, but nothing had become established. And so it was thinking that, oh, this prediction means India, or perhaps greater India, right? The idea of going to the West. And so the demigods were probably also very astonished that preaching could go on in the West. But with the blessings of Nityananda, anything is possible. And for one who fully surrenders. And so the demigods came to see and praise and encourage Srila Prabhupada. He was very happy. Yes, you have the blessings of everyone. The same demigods that rolled on the ground in the courtyard of Mahaprabhu were now coming to see his representative, right, and his preaching efforts. And then another story, which is quite extraordinary and actually quite amusing in its own way, was, I've heard this, one Rath Yatra that Srila Prabhupada was there, and he would always sit on the cart. I think he would sit generally on Subhadra's cart, the first one, right? And then after, when they would arrive, then they would serve prasadam out to everybody after the program and everything, and, after the lecture and kirtan, and Srila Prabhupada was being served his meal on a little table, and he said, bring another plate. And they said, what? Yeah, bring another plate, put it there. And they did. And Srila Prabhupada was taking and all like that. And then they were curious, well, why did you ask another plate? Narad Muni came, and I wanted him to have prasad. So Narad Muni came, took prasad. But like the Lord, he can take prasad and we may not see it, right? Like these demigods, they couldn't see these demigods. But if you had the eyes to see, you could see, right? So these confidential pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and, in brackets, and his great devotees, are most wonderful. If one hears them, he achieves all perfection. Do not maintain any doubts. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva would daily come to see Gauranga. He namatte jaghai mate paritran karilashi Gaurachandra jagatera pran. In this way, Sri Gaurachandra, the life and soul of the universe, delivered Jaghai and Madhai. Gaurachandra will deliver everyone except those sinful persons who blaspheme Vaishnavas. Once again, and again, you may be practicing, you may be in the topmost sampradaya, you may be in the topmost order in Varnashram, you may be following perfectly all rules and regulations externally, not even engaged in any sense gratification. But if you're blaspheming Vaishnavas, and if you're in the assembly of similar persons, it's like an assembly of drunkards. This is not my words, Vrindavan Das Thakur. Blasphemy of Vaishnavas destroys everything. Sulapani samajadi bhakta ninda kore. Bhakta ninda. Ninda, a blasphemy, right? Bhagavata pramana tatapiha sigra mare. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 10th chapter, 25th verse, even if someone on the level of Lord Shiva blasphemes a devotee, he will soon be destroyed. Oh my God. Where's...
It's behind the book.
Just a minute here. Oh, if I had my other phone, I could have got it really quick. 4, 5. Oh man, these are so hard to get. Okay.
I think that's 6. Oh no.
You think, but you have imperfect senses.
I assume it was in the right order.
5, 10. This is chapter, 2nd chapter of Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat. Okay. All these, this is after Jad Bharat had, he went around the world as if dumb, couldn't speak, looking like a madman, but very strong. And then this great king, very powerful king, one of his palanquin carriers came up lame and he needed another one, so they just grabbed him. But he, although carrying, he never protested. He wouldn't step on insects and things on the road. And so he was jiggling the palanquin, and the king chastised him severely. And then Jad Bharat broke his silence out of mercy to the king and to free him from offense, give him an opportunity to apologize and rectify, because he didn't want the king destroyed. And he gave him so many instructions. So then the king responded. There's verses 24, 25 is the one he quotes, but in 24, he says the king, Rahugana says, whatever you have spoken appears to me to be contradictory. O best friend of the distressed, I have committed a great offense by insulting you. I was puffed up with false prestige due to possessing the body of a king. For this I have certainly become an offender. Therefore I pray that you kindly glance at me with your causeless mercy. If you do so, I can be relieved from sinful activities brought about by insulting you. And here's the verse 25. Oh, my dear Lord, you are the friend of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the friend of all living entities. You are therefore equal to everyone, and you are free from the bodily conception. Although I have committed an offense by insulting you, I know that there is no loss or gain for you due to my insult. You are fixed in your determination. But I have committed an offense. Because of this, even though I may be as strong as Lord Shiva, I shall be vanquished without delay due to my offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. So this is a clear warning. And Srila Prabhupada speaks to this. This is Srila Prabhupada's words here. Maharaj Rahugana was very intelligent and conscious of the inauspicious effects arising from insulting a Vaishnava. He was therefore very anxious to be excused by Jad Bharat. Following in the footsteps of Maharaj Rahugana, everyone should be very cautious not to commit an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in the Chaitanya Bhagavat says, and this is the verse, this same verse, Sulapani samajati bhakta ninda kore, bhagavata pramana tatapi shigra more. And then, Hena Vaishnavera ninde sarvagyahai, se janera adha pata sarva shastra kahi. Even if one is as strong as Lord Shiva, who carries a trident in its hand, one will nonetheless fall down from his spiritual platform if he tries to insult a Vaishnava. That is the verdict of all Vedic scriptures. He also says this in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya 22. And this is the 22nd chapter of Madhya. We've not got to that. Vaishnavaraninda kari bekkayatragan tara raksha samartya nahika konajan sulapani samajari Vaishnavaraninde tatapiha nashayaya kahi shastravinde. Similar verse to the one we just read. Ihana maniya ye sujana ninda kore janme janme se papishta daivadoshamare. One who blasphemes a Vaishnava cannot be protected by anyone. Even if a person is as strong as Lord Shiva, if he blasphemes a Vaishnava, he is sure to be destroyed. This is the verdict of all Shastras. If one does not care for the verdict of the Shastras and dares blaspheme a Vaishnava, he suffers life after life because of this. Oh my goodness. You know, there's another I've told this story before, but it takes on particular weight. Notice Srila Prabhupada makes some statement, but he simply quotes Vrindavan Das Thakur and Chaitanya Bhagavat. So there's no doubt about this, right? That he's not just giving a warning, he's enforcing it by the conclusive and irrefutable statements of Scripture, of the Veda Vyas of the Kali Yuga, right? For Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he's Veda Vyas, the author of all Scripture. No one can save you. When one time, I tell the story a lot, but I think it was in Bombay, where Srila Prabhupada had his secretary. It was usually a GBC, and he had a servant, and the servant was a very nice devotee, very sweet, very gentle person. But this particular servant had a temper, and he would yell a lot at people, this sannyasi secretary. He had a reputation for this. And he was in the next room just screaming at this servant. Srila Prabhupada's servant now, right? Not a big devotee in the way they didn't have a big post. Well, he did have a big post because he's Srila Prabhupada's direct servant. But he is very unassuming, simple devotee. And he was being screamed at, and Srila Prabhupada could hear this in the next room. And he called that devotee in, and he said, "Oh, you've committed a great offense, yelling at your godbrother like this," and which means also my disciple. He said, "Even I cannot free you from this offense. This is very serious. You have to go and personally apologize and beg forgiveness from him. Only then can you be free from this offense." Right? So, very difficult, right? When Gopal Chapala and Gopal Chakravarti had committed offenses to Srivas Thakur and Haridas Thakur, they were relieved from the offense by taking shelter of the persons they had offended on the order of Mahaprabhu. Devananda Pandit, who committed an offense by not interfering with his students who removed Srivas Thakur from the Bhagavat recital, because Srivas Thakur was in ecstasy and making noise, he also displeased Mahaprabhu greatly, even by that indirect offense. And he was only relieved by taking shelter of Virkeshwara Pandit, great devotee of Mahaprabhu, very intimate associate in Vrindavan of Sri Krishna. And then, by surrendering to him, then going to Mahaprabhu and the other devotees and getting their mercy. Right? So you can take, Bhakti-Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj one time said that if you commit an offense to a devotee, then, and that devotee's left their body, or you can't reach them, you can't get their forgiveness, if you take shelter of a higher devotee, they may be able to help you. So it's kind of like in the army. If you offend a lieutenant and he's going to punish you, but if you take shelter of a general, the general can override the lieutenant's punishment. But when you're talking about Mahabhagavat, Vaisnava like that, then there's no recourse except directly going to that devotee. And in the Madhurya Kadambini, it's described that if you can't reach that devotee personally, then the only recourse is to take shelter of the holy name and chant weeping unceasingly, over and over, begging forgiveness from that Vaishnava and from the Lord. Genuine deep remorse and genuine deep surrender, right, in your heart to that devotee, even though he's not there, and to the holy name. So, 2 verses. Srila Prabhupada also quoted them. Sulapani samajari bhakti nindakare bhagavata pramana tatapiha sigramare mahad vimanat swakrita di madinan krikyat yadurad api sulapani. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 5.10.25, which we just read, even if someone on the level of Lord Shiva blasphemes a devotee, he will soon be destroyed. Because of this, even though I may be as strong as Lord Shiva, I shall be vanquished without delay due to my offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. So, in all scriptures it is stated that if an all-knowing person blasphemes a Vaishnava, he will certainly fall down. Hena Vaishnava nindayade sarva gyahai sejanera atapata sarva shastrikai. So in other words, Saraswati Prabhupada says, even after achieving all perfection, a person who criticizes a Vaishnava certainly falls down. This is the verdict of all scriptures. Sarva maha prayaschitta ye Krishnaranam Vaishnava parade seha namiliyai tran. Krishna's name, which is the ultimate atonement, does not deliver one who offends a Vaishnava. Because that, in fact, is the first and greatest offense to the holy name, Vaishnava Ninda. Right? In his purport, Srila Saraswati Prabhupada says, the holy names of the Lord have more power for destroying sinful reactions than all other kinds of atonement mentioned in the Smritis. But if a person commits an offense against a devotee of Hari, who is engaged in chanting those holy names, then he can never be delivered. Among the offenses against the chanting of the holy names, blasphemy of sadhus is the first. If one commits offenses against the holy names, he cannot possibly attain namabhas, which is a glimpse of offenseless chanting, or the fruits of chanting the holy names. We have to rid ourselves. When you're criticizing devotees, oh my God, you'll never make advancement. We should always remind ourselves of that. And that doesn't just mean pure devotees. Don't criticize any devotees, right? Because that mentality, it rests in your mind, it rests in your heart, and it will, if you'll just end up criticizing a pure devotee as well. Well, I only criticize, these low-level persons who, they're doing all this, they're doing that, there's no harm. But if you have that mentality, then you will also criticize real Vaishnavas as well. We have to rid ourselves of that mentality completely. And also, these so-called lower-level Vaishnavas, they may be very dear to high-level Vaishnavas because they're disciples. They've taken shelter. And we discussed that the other day. Love me, love my dog. That devotees are very attached, pure devotees, to their disciples. They don't condone, like that Srila Prabhupada. You've committed a great offense to your godbrother. I cannot save you from that. You have to apologize to them. We have to rid ourselves. And this sectarian fighting, this, neophyte mentality that only we are the real Vaishnavas and everyone else is bogus, this will not only impede the spreading of Mahaprabhu's mission, right? It will impede and even destroy your own bhakti. And also, how can real bhakti be spread by those who are infused with nam aparadha? They have no power. They have no taste. People may come and follow you because of some material charisma, or you have intelligence or something that attracts people on the mundane level. But the ability to imbibe and then imbue others with this beauty of bhakti will never come as long as you have this sectarian critical mentality. Then he says, Padma Puranera Ehi Parama Vachana Prema Bhakti Hoya Iha Korile Palana. One who honors the following confidential words of the Padma Purana will attain ecstatic love of God. So this is, Padma Purana is where the 10 offenses are listed. And here's one verse from the Padma Purana. The first, Satam Ninda Namna Paramam Aparadam Vitanute Yatakyatim Ditam Katam Su Usahate Tadvigaham. To blaspheme the great saintly devotees who are preaching the glories of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the worst offense at the lotus feet of the holy name. The Nam Prabhu, who is identical with Krishna, will never tolerate such blasphemous activities, even from one who passes as a great devotee. Even one who passes as a great devotee. Remember, Nam Prabhu is more merciful than Krishna himself, even though they're non-different. Benad van nama namino. Nam Prabhu is more merciful, but Nam Prabhu will not forgive that. To blaspheme the great saintly persons who are preaching the glories of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the worst offense at the lotus feet of the holy name. The non-Prabhu, who is identical with Krishna, will never tolerate such blasphemous activities, even from one who passes as a great devotee. And also remember that if we are experiencing difficulty in our chanting, it's said here in Chaitanya Charitamrita that it all goes back to offenses that we have committed to the holy name, like to great devotees. We have to see this and pray to be rid of this tendency, this mentality, this evil propensity, and beg forgiveness for any offenses that we may have committed in the past, and pray that we never commit any in the future. So then, yehi shunayehi mahadasyara udar tare udari bagoda chandra avatar. One who hears this narration regarding the deliverance of the two rogues will be delivered by Sri Gaurachandra. Ah, hey, there we go. All glories to Lord Gauranga, who delivered the two Brahmana demons. O Lord, you are an ocean of mercy and the most compassionate. Purport. Since Sriman Mahaprabhu delivered Jagai and Madhai, he became known as Brahma Daitya Tarana, the deliverer of the Brahmana demons. Although Jagai and Madhai were born in a Brahmana family, they were addressed as demons due to their aversion to the Lord. Sahasra Karuna Sindhu Mahakripamoy Doshanahi Deke Prabhu Gunamatralai. The Lord's supreme mercy is as vast as 1,000 oceans. He sees the good qualities of others and never finds fault in them. A sinful life devoid of the association of such a Lord has no benefit other than its long duration. Purport. Saraswati Prabhupada says, Mahaprabhu is most merciful and sees no fault in others. He is not even slightly offended by one's offenses. The life of a sinful person who maintains his life devoid of the service of that Mahaprabhu is useless. He continues his life simply due to his past karma. But such an existence is never praiseworthy. The Lord himself, he's not offended. He's not affected by the offenses of others. This is also addressed in the 7th canto, when Maharaj Yudhishthira asks about or Parikshit Maharaj asks, and conversations of Narad and Yudhishthira Maharaj help illuminate the point. It appears that the Lord favors the devotees and against the demons. And the devotees praise the Lord, the demons offend him, they criticize him. But it's described the Lord is completely transcendental. To whatever the demons say or do, that's all on the material plane. The Lord is not on the material plane. Nothing they could say or do affects him in the least. He's completely transcendental. And so even if he's punishing them or empowering the devotees to defeat them, it's not out of anger towards them or retribution, it's out of mercy towards them. Whatever he does for any living entity is to correct and purify them. So if they have to be purified by punishment or chastisement, then that's what he does. But it's not out of anger or that he was offended, because he's completely aloof from all of that. And Mahaprabhu also, but in Mahaprabhu's Leela, he doesn't correct by that kind of punishment. He corrects and uplifts by distributing his unlimited mercy. And this whole pastime is to show that. This Jagai and Madhai. That even the most fallen, if they take genuine shelter of the Lord's devotees, then they can be delivered. Then he says, O Lord, please bestow your mercy on me, so that I may hear and chant your glories. May I reside as the servant of Sri Gaur Sundar, the Lord of my Lord, wherever he may be. Who is his Lord? His Lord is Nityananda Prabhu. And so that Mahaprabhu is the Lord of Nityananda. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, I want to be the servant of Sri Gaur Sundar. And we also, he is the Lord of our Lord. Our gurus, they're also the representatives of Nityananda. We want that. May we be the servants. Purport. So Saraswati Prabhupada explains, Sriman Mahaprabhu is the worshipable Lord of my spiritual master. It is my desire that I may become their servant, birth after birth. Chaitanya Katara Adi Antyana Hijani, Ye te mate Chaitanya Rajasya Sevakhani. There is neither a beginning or end to the topics regarding Lord Chaitanya. Yet somehow or other, I am narrating his glories. Ganasaha Prabhupada Padme Namaskar, Ite Aparadha Kichu Nahuka Amar. I offer my obeisance at the feet of the Lord and his associates, so that I may not offend them. So how do you avoid a life of offense? Offering humble obeisance to the devotees. Develop the quality of service to the devotees. That's the only way. He's saying, I offer my obeisance at the feet of the Lord and his associates, so that I may not offend them. You can either be an offender or you can be a servant, right? In this world, neutrality is not possible to maintain. There's always the pull, the modes of nature, or our inclination towards the transcendental reality. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Chanda Jana Vrindavana Dasatachu Padajuge Gana. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends this English translation of the Gaudiya Bhashya commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhyakanda, chapter 13. Chapter 13. Eeks, I was calling it chapter 12 in all of my things. Deliverance of Jaghai and Madhai. I may have to relabel everything. Oh yeah, chapter 13. All right, well, we finished that. How wonderful. So that chapter describes a beautiful pastime, but what is reinforced is, two principal things. The unlimited mercy of the Lord coming to deliver even the most fallen, but the warning over and over and over not to criticize or blaspheme devotees. And how do you avoid that? By cultivating a service mentality, appreciating the service of the devotees. Even if they don't, even if others don't appreciate. But those devotees that are the most humble, they have the most fortunate position. Most fortunate position. They may not be adorned with titles and position and the fruits of, of labor in the form of wealth and status and all that, but they have the greatest wealth. Turnad api sunichena turo api sahishtana amanina manadena kirtanir siddhahari. Amanina manadena. Not seeking any reward for oneself, but only wanting to offer respect and honor to others. Considering oneself very humble, very unqualified, right? Then you can chant. And so this whole idea about blasphemy, it means not only not doing it yourself, but don't live in an environment where that's taking place. It said where the blasphemy of Vaishnavas is going on, a Vaishnava will never want to be there. Never want to be in that environment. If one's guru or other Vaishnavas are being insulted, one must leave. What's the greatest example of that? Perhaps Sati, the wife of Lord Shiva. When she went to the great sacrifice being performed by her father, even though they didn't get a direct invitation, because Prajapati Daksha had some ill feelings towards her husband, Lord Shiva, because at a previous time when Daksha had come into an assembly, Lord Shiva was sitting with Lord Brahma, and neither of them offered respects when Daksha came in. So many other sages and brahmanas offered respects to Daksha. He had a very high position. And Daksha was thinking, he is the husband of my daughter, so he's like my son-in-law. He should offer respects to me. And he became angry at Lord Shiva. Oh, who does he think he is? What is his position? He should be offering respects to me. But Lord Shiva, of course, Mahadev, right? Mahadev, the greatest of the demigods. Whatever Daksha may have thought, based on the fact that he's married, he gave Daksha the great blessing of marrying his daughter. Not that he was subservient to him. It's considered an offense if you treat somebody higher than their actual position. You should not do that. So anyway, so Daksha, when he was doing this grand sacrifice, and everybody, all the greatest personalities from the universe were invited, but Lord Shiva was not. But Sati heard about it, and described like ladies, they want to go and dress up and see all her sisters and her friends and, go to the big thing. And Lord Shiva warned her, said, this is not going to end well for you. But she went, but if you have to go, go. So she went. And then when she saw the insulting mentality of her father, she could not bear that he was insulting her husband. And so she cursed her own father and said, oh, that I have been born from your body. That means my body is contaminated with the same offensive mentality that you have. And she, by mystic power, immolated herself, burned herself up in mystic fire. I no longer want to be associated with you in any way. Right? So, in that kind of assembly. And then when Lord Shiva heard about that, he became enraged at Daksha, sent his followers who went there and destroyed the entire sacrificial arena. It was not auspicious because it was being performed by an offender to not just the greatest of the demigods, but Vaishnavanam Jata Shambhu, among all devotees in the universe, one of the greatest, right? Vaishnava, not just some administrator or demigod, great Vaishnava, Sadashiv. So, and then he was killed. His head was chopped off and then thrown in the fire. Right? And so I can't remember for the reason they had to bring him back, or they were asked to bring him back, but there was no head because it had been thrown in the sacrificial fire. So they chopped the head of a goat and put it on him. And Daksha came back into his body, but he had the head of a goat. Maintained the same sense of identity and intelligence, and then he became humble, realizing what had been done. And then after some time, he gave that body up and then took another body and became Daksha again, Prajapati again. But that mentality is not easy to remove. Not easy to remove that offensive mentality. From what? Pride. Right? Raghunath Das gives us that warning that even after one has removed all attachment for lust, greed, anger, everything else, and all these other obstacles of bhakti, the last remaining obstacle is pratishdasha, desire for respect and honor from others. Right? That will erode and eat away at your bhakti, because that prevents you from having this humble and appreciative mentality of Vaishnavas. I should be served. I should be respected. Oh, this one's like this one's like that. Whatever unhappiness I have, it's because of them, because of this, because of that. Right? So you don't want to be like that, and you don't want to associate or even hear from people like that, because it just pollutes your mind. You just feel unclean from that. So this is a very amazing pastime that we have heard. One of the most important pastimes in all this Chaitanya Bhagavat, certainly in terms of illuminating and identifying Mahaprabhu's identity as Patit Pavan. Of course, there's the internal experience also, but in terms of his missionary intentions and magnanimity, this pastime explains it so amazingly. So we will stop here and offer our obeisance to our own beloved Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and our Shiksha and Sannyas Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, and pray to their lotus feet that our wicked heart will also be free from this tendency to commit offense. And whatever we've done in the past by ignorance, by maliciousness, by our contamination, please help us become free from that so that we can engage in bhakti in appropriate, gentle, humble, loving way. Right? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Vrindavan Das Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Gaurachandra, Jagai and Madhai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.